A gift from the prophets is a stabbing. The transit reports clearly show Baral was on a personal retreat at the Dakeen Monastery in the week leading up to the Kendra Valley massacre. And Kai wins. Again. Hey, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Oh, wow. Hello.
And very special guest, Professor. Is it Professor or Doctor?
Either one's fine.
Professor Dr. Mohamed Noor.
You didn't ask me that.
Professor Cirroc Lofton.
I prefer Dr. Cirroc, but it's okay. Next time.
Dr. Cirroc, I like that.
Yeah, it's a good
Doc Cirroc.
That fits you well.
So,
only schooling in the way. That's the only thing in the way.
So for those of you who don't know who Mohamed is, he was on one of our CNF episodes. He's a professor at Duke University, right? Tell him what you do, please. It's very cool.
I think he's a dean now, right?
That's right. Yeah. So right now I'm serving as Dean of Natural Sciences at Duke. So I oversee 8 departments in terms of their administration. But besides that, I teach and I do research in evolutionary genetics, mostly using fruit flies.
Well,
awesome.
Fun stuff.
And you actually just recently got a job with Star Trek, yeah?
Yep. I'm doing a little bit of consulting work on the side. So it's been really fun doing that.
Wow. As if he doesn't have enough work to do.
He's a current employee of Star Trek. That's pretty awesome.
Not an employee, it's just contract work, but yeah.
Whatever. How you guys doing, by the way? All is well? It's a beautiful day out in LA. What's it like over in your neck of the woods?
North Carolina is beautiful as well. Yeah, I just came back from a walk right before coming on the show.
Great.
Yeah.
Cirroc, all is well for you on the west side?
I mean, I'm doing what everybody else is doing, staying at home and washing my hands.
That's our new hobby, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think the handshake is officially outdated.
We do this now.
Yeah, we're gonna do non-contact
for now.
Great greetings. Yeah, for now and probably for a while until this thing.
I think people are going to be a little bit traumatized by this in the future. Like even when this is all gone, people aren't going to want to like shake hands or hug as much as before because they're just this kind of like may have affected them to the point of saying, well, let's just let's wave or do this maneuver. You know what I mean? Like. I think it's gonna hang on a little longer.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
One of the benefits is that we've really cleared up the pollution problem here in Los Angeles. It's
that's great.
The clearest skies and the freshest air I think I've ever.
In our lifetimes, absolutely. I feel like it's since like the 50s. I've nobody can realizes how blue the sky is until all the cars and the humans are out of the way. You can see the stars at night. You can smell that the air smells fresh. It feels like we're out in the mountains or just away from LA for a second. It's gorgeous.
What was the city in Italy that had the dolphins come back in after everybody stopped going out with their cars?
Venice, but that was debunked, I believe.
Oh, it was a myth. I
haven't confirmed the debunk, but I didn't confirm the truth yet. So who knows?
Okay. So it's either way right now.
But it is true. We're seeing coyotes running around in LA. All the animals are happy. Animals are loving it. I mean, this is really actually good for everything in the world except for humans right now.
Yeah. Everybody's dogs love it. Their owners are home all day, all the time.
They see a lot of dog walking too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dog walking. Kids are learning how to ride their bikes with their parents. People are spending like all this quality time.
Yeah.
Wish it was under better circumstances.
It's a trade-off.
Yeah. So today, I forgot to mention, we are reviewing Deep Space Nine Season 2, Episode 24, The Collaborator. This one is a very Bajoran government-heavy episode. Before we get too much into it, though, there was something I've always kind of wondered, and I feel like if Mohamed isn't the perfect person to answer this question, I don't know who is. And that question is, because you deal in evolutionary biology a lot, right? So whenever we see aliens, I know a lot of us can't help but think, how did they get to be like that? Is that just like, some random stupid leftover piece that they have, or was there some thought put into it? And one of the ones that kind of made me wonder is that the Bajorans, they look like humans, just like us, but they have this crinkled nose.
Mhm.
And I've never been able to figure out if or why that would be a evolutionary trait. And I feel like you'd be the kind of right person to theorize about that.
That's a great question. So let's take the.
Cirroc thought of it. He texted it to me.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for the credit.
2 thumbs up to both of you. So let's take it one step back. So you guys remember in the episode from The Next Generation, The Chase, they tried to explain why there's so many humanoid aliens out there. And their explanation in that episode was that like 4 billion years ago, this alien race had seeded all these different worlds with, some sort of precursor of life, and then life came about to look like it does today. That actually doesn't really work very well at all, because that assumes that over 4 billion years, even if you had exactly the same environment, even if everything was set up perfectly, it assumes there's no random events that wouldn't have led to having something that looks like a human. Which we know even on Earth, that was absolutely not true. Just as one example, the asteroid that knocked back the dinosaurs 65 million years ago, that was a very random event. And that's what allowed mammals to radiate. So that doesn't really work. The best explanation for why you see so many humanoids, and this will lead to your specific question, the best reason for why there's so many humanoids is actually something that was in an original series episode, the Paradise Syndrome. And what they suggested there is that an alien species came and picked up populations that were in danger of extinction and seeded them on other worlds. So in that one, they had picked up these Native Americans and dropped them someplace else. So that actually kind of works. So in that sense, what you could imagine to make the Bajorans work just in general is that somebody came to Earth maybe around the time, let's say like a couple 100,000 years ago, maybe like Homo erectus-ish, and some Neanderthals around, maybe picked up some proto-humans and then dropped them over on Bajor, with whatever it takes for them to live. Now, in terms of specifically the little nose crinkle, best explanation is it's random. I mean, there's so many random traits out there rather than
earlobes.
Yeah, exactly, something like that. So just over time, there was some mutation came up for that. There wasn't a problem with it. Maybe some women found it sexy,
or some dudes did,
or some dudes did. Yeah, either way, or both.
I mean, yeah, that's right.
And then just spread, or purely random, maybe without even the preference there. So that's probably the best explanation.
Yeah. I was thinking of something else along the line of the base elements and how we have so many elements on the periodic table. And I'm thinking, so the whole universe is made out of these things, right? From what we understand.
Yep.
And so then that to me is the kind of commonality from one corner of one galaxy to the next. We start going to be dealing with hydrogen. We're going to be dealing with carbon.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Absolutely right.
That's
right.
Yeah,
so
I was just going to say that's right. And a couple times I feel like I recognize the idea that Star Trek did explore non-carbon based life forms. I can't remember which one. Maybe it was species 8472.
No. Well, maybe that one. But the Horta was silicon based for sure in the original series.
Right.
But also the what's the thing that came and destroyed Data's planet? Or Dr. Soong's planet in Next Generation. Remember, it was also made of silicon. It was this giant silicon thing. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember what those were called.
Yeah, the episode was called Silicon Avatar, but that wasn't the name of the organism.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess that's our answer for the crinkled nose. I was hoping there'd be something in there that but you're right, 4 billion years. There's no way that they would look like us, but with crinkly nose. There's no way.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk.
I think some of those things we just suspend, right? Is that what we just
exactly?
A lot of those things.
Again, there's that in canon episode. If you go back to Paradise Syndrome, that works. That maybe something came rather than 4 billion years ago. A couple,
Oh, right, and seeded
a couple 100,000 exactly
other places around that makes sense as well. Yeah,
and that also makes it so we're interfertile as well. Because we know that we were interfertile with Neanderthals, so at that point we'd be interfertile with Bajorans and Vulcans and whatever.
Right. I did read somewhere recently that not just us and Neanderthals, but like others,
that's right.
I can't remember Homo habilis and maybe Homo erectus were something like that. Anyway, that's nerd talk.
I love it.
Yeah, me too. I get stuck on that. Everybody's going like, are you guys going to talk about this episode? Or are you guys just going to
let's keep talking evolution instead.
Opening books.
Yeah. It's all relative, I think.
We are all relatives.
Yeah, but it's funny because just in the relations of the way things work. For example, this episode opens with a vision from the prophets, right? And I think he's visiting the orb.
Mm-hmm.
And when he opens the orb and you see the orb itself kind of looks like an hourglass. Mm-hmm. It has this hourglass type of shape to it. But it also reminded me of a crystal ball. I mean, we're so used to seeing crystal balls and people looking into them from the days of Merlin and whatever, but we're used to that imagery. But now we see this and it's similar. I mean, it's showing you a vision of the future. It's telling you some kind of cryptic message in it, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm just drawing parallels between things the same way we're doing here with different species,
It's interesting how it connects to them too. Like with a crystal ball, you look into it and you see stuff. With this one, it creates a vision in your mind as opposed to actually in the ball or in the hourglass.
Right. Right. So it's just one small thing that kind of jumped out at me. But getting into the episode, I really enjoy watching Nana play Kira, and this is another episode that affirms how wonderful and special I think she is. And one of the special things that I really enjoy watching her do is this switch that she makes from being a very feminine person to being really dominant and like an alpha. So she can be so soft and so sensual in her negligee and in these romantic scenes. And then she can be so tough where she she could be tougher than Sisko in a lot of cases. So it's just a great range of ability to play these different kinds of emotions.
And sometimes the juxtaposition, like being in the negligee but stabbing him.
right.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. That's one of my favorite parts. We're a little quick skip ahead, but that's why I kind of threw that at the very beginning, where they said, it's a gift from the prophets. Ugh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There you go.
Can I return it? But yeah, you're right, Cirroc, in that it almost seems like, except for in that case, where she goes home, she changes out of her work clothes, and she's a totally different person. Then she puts on her uniform and she flips that switch, and she's badass Kira Nerys again, Major Kira Nerys, that is.
Yeah, I like the distinction between the two, how much range she shows. I think it's remarkable.
Oh, by the way, I'm wearing red for Vedek Barile here. There's
is that what that is?
My Vedek Barile look. So for those of you that are just listening and not watching, just imagine that I'm pretty much basically cosplaying him perfectly right now. Anybody that's watching can confirm this, that I basically look, I don't want to say identical, but as close to identical as, most people would think I was him. But anyway.
Yeah, kind of like my Kai costume too.
Very Kai. So it opens up. Vedek Barile's having a dream, or his vision, and Kira's playing racquetball next to the staircase and kind of hitting that around, which is interesting because I don't remember seeing her play racquetball yet, but maybe she has already. I know Bashir and O'Brien did. And I don't even really know if that's racquetball or if they have a different name for it. Then she releases Prylar Beck. Was that his name? Prylar Beck. He drops down to the ground. I don't know. From the very beginning, I was like, "Oh boy, this is going to be one of those confusing episodes." For me, I'm like, "Uh-oh." When it starts talking Bajoran stuff, it's kind of confusing. But it really wasn't confusing. It was very methodical in the way that it did its storytelling. Cirroc, what were your very first impressions when you started watching it? Were you like, I can't wait to just dive into this one?
Well, initially when I started watching it, I thought we were in the mirror universe. because Kira was, playing racquetball. So,
so of course,
so,
naturally.
So I said, "What's going on here? This is not normal." And then I instantly said, "Okay, this is a dream sequence." And then obviously it was revealed that it was this vision from the orb. But so yeah, it was kind of one of those things where I was a little bit, okay, where's this going? What are we seeing? Trying to figure it out just like everybody else. And they also had this kind of layered, like, revealing of the story. And we've done this a lot on DS9, where a character comes in and there's a lot of backstory that has to be kind of shuffled through in order to get to the meat of it. And I think that's one thing that DS9 is exceptionally good at. We saw this with the episode with The Wire, with Garrick, him having this backstory that had to get worked out through all this dialogue and shuffling around and finding the truth. Right. And we also have the same thing in this, where they're, is he telling the truth? Is he not telling the truth? Where is the truth? And that's one thing that we really discovered in this show, that the truth is not as plain and factually as a 1 + 1 = 2. It's a lot more variance in there. There's a lot more information that informs you on why decisions are made and why things happen when you do.
That's very true. Now, Mohamed, were you as surprised about the truth upon your 6th viewing?
So I'd obviously seen this episode multiple times before, but I didn't actually remember what the outcome was. So I was very surprised at the very end. I thought, wow, I didn't remember him being a bad guy.
Same thing, same here. Like I didn't remember how it ended, and then when you see the end, you're like, huh, that doesn't seem to fit the character I remember, right?
Yeah, exactly. But actually, my initial reaction was exactly the same as yours, where they had Prylar Beck, and I'm like, wait, am I supposed to know who Prylar Beck is? I don't remember who Prylar Beck is.
Right. So that was what I was trying to figure out as well. And then it was interesting too, because they go through this whole long thing, essentially that benefits Vedek Winn, right? Yeah. All of this whole playing out of things and taking up for other people like he did with Kaiopaka, really just lends itself to the story, which is what they really wanted, was to see Vedek Winn elevate into this position, right, of Kai.
Yeah. So that Kai wins.
Yeah. Well,
Cirroc's like, I didn't laugh the first time. I'm not gonna laugh the second time.
I can't do it. Sorry.
Yeah, but it was what that one gave us was, if you'll recall, a previous episode this season in which there's like a symbiont initiate that comes to see Dax, so that he could get approved by her. I don't remember exactly what his name was. But what it ended up doing was it ended up teaching us more about, the Trill culture and their way of life and how things go. And this episode did that for Bajorans, is that it kind of taught us, okay, these are kind of like their elections. This is how they work things out. Here's some of their history too, and that's really cool. Just to kind of because then you get a little bit more in depth about Major Kira, knowing about her culture. And of course, we know that Bareil and Kai Winn, they end up coming back in subsequent episodes. So it gives us kind of like that foundation that we need. Mohamed, is there any part of the Bajoran lore that you just absolutely hate?
I hate?
Or you could say like instead.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the prophets as aliens was very interesting, and having them not be like temporally steady, where they don't even understand the concept of time. I thought that was very interesting. It wasn't really shown in this episode at all, but I really thought that was cool in general.
Yeah.
Or understanding like this comes before that. What do you mean by before or after? They didn't even get that.
Yeah.
Right.
Time. What is time?
Yeah, and they do that a lot, like in later seasons too, where they're just like, we do not experience this time.
Yeah.
Huh.
Now, is that because it's something that you wouldn't experience, Mama? Because you'd know better than us regular folks.
That goes into the realm of physics. I'll defer to my colleague Dr. Aaron McDonald, who's also like consults for Star Trek. So that's our expertise there.
Okay.
Not a biology question.
We'll save that question for her.
Okay. We gotta save that question about time.
How about this? How about this variation of that question, Mohamed?
Sure.
Is it possible for different species of life outside of like plants, bacteria, and viruses to experience time in a different way?
Absolutely. I mean, just think about lifespans that we have just among species on Earth. I mean, they're radically different among different species. And it's quite possible, this is something I've brought up in just conversations with people. One thing that may happen at some point in time in the future, we may encounter life outside of Earth and not even recognize it's alive because it's either way too fast or way too slow. Where, maybe it's, it's doing metabolism and doing things like that, but it's doing it, over the time scale of millennia. Where, you look at it, it's like, it looks just like a rock or whatever.
Or Iran,
right.
Yeah. Or the other way around, where, by the time we touch it, it's gone extinct.
That's the fourth dimension, right? Time.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
Interesting. That is interesting. And you do expect us to see, find life outside of this planet eventually, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, us find it is a different question than whether it exists. I'm sure it exists. Whether we'll find it, I don't know.
Yeah, that I think it's more important to find intelligent life, though. I know that we'll find life. I think we will find life. I think if we haven't already.
And they're just going to fly right past us then if they feel the same.
That's a good one.
Sorry, I thought there was more to your story. I totally interrupted it for a joke, and that just.
Thanks a lot, Ryan.
You
know me, I jump on the jokes no matter what. So
one thing about the episode, though, this was true in that opening scene. It's interesting looking at what the prophets were showing Bareil, that like they kept on inferring that he was going to die. And it's like, that's such an extreme view of you're not going to be Kai, like you're going to be dead. Like, well, it's not that bad. You don't get to be king of this planet. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. It
was a little bit extreme in that regard.
Maybe it's kind of like the hanged man in tarot readings. Like people say, oh my God, the hanged man or death, the death card.
Yeah.
I'm going to fucking die. And they're like, no, it just means like you're going to change jobs or you're going to stop reading this book that you don't like. It just means things are going to end. So maybe it's
get your number 2 choice of job. Oh.
Now, have they showed that that's how they communicate though in the past? Are they usually the prophets that cryptic about things, or are they more like direct in their visions? I thought with Sisko they were kind of more.
We're sometimes more direct.
More direct.
Yeah. Good question.
Maybe they just hadn't. Because if we're working with what we've seen so far, maybe the writers just hadn't developed the prophets fully yet. You know what I mean? Like it kind of just evolved as time went on, or what we perceive to be time. But yeah, it does seem like they kind of communicated a little bit differently from season 1 to season 7, right? But the one thing that stayed the same with them, at least with Sisko, and we're kind of going off track, but was that they would inhabit the bodies of other people, right, to give these communiques. And they did that still with when they do the visions with the orbs. They talk through familiar faces.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. That is consistency.
So
the other thing I needed reminding of was where the last time we saw Vedek Winn, and they remind us in the episode, right? I think Sisko says, last time you were here, you told me to go screw myself, right? Get out.
Yeah.
And he's like, so now do you think the Federation is, you think we're all right over here at the Federation? We're doing the right thing. So I thought that was interesting.
That was true with Kira. With Kira with the whole like increasing security and things like that. Well, it's not for you because the last time you were here,
right? Exactly. And it's a long gap between the last time they were there, as far as from me watching. So I kind of needed that kind of refreshment because I didn't remember exactly the note that they left out on.
That was well done.
Thank goodness Star Trek told us that too, because otherwise I would have been like, how did they leave off last time? Probably on a sour note with Vedek Winn, probably on a sour note.
Odds are.
So we're going to go to a quick break in just a second here. When we get back, I'm going to throw out a bunch of the trivioids that didn't make the cutting room floor. They don't get any better than the first three, though. Maybe one does.
Wow, they don't get any better than that.
I know. You got to set the bar low today, okay, guys?
Yeah. Okay.
But we're going to come right back with the seventh rule.